So if I give a quick recap, so basically we have started in the last session the data model. We talked about the custom data model, standard data model, and we also moved to the enhancement of standard data model, but today we will talk about more on that. So in the last session when we talk about the custom data model, and particularly when we build the custom scenario with one custom data model like airline processing, there we talked about some important things like storage type. So we have a different storage type 1, 2, 3, and 4. With some example we talked about, and the relationship, particularly we talked about the referencing relationship, and also a little bit discuss on leading, but today we will see more on that, particularly qualifying and foreign key. And then we will continue with the enhancements topic like add custom attribute in the data model or add custom entity types in the data model, and so on. Also, we talked about a little bit on a kind of an overview on reuse mode and flex mode, but we will talk about today the the inside details, the configuration for those modes, and then followed by a couple of topics like customer vendor integration, CVI, and the general model. So let's start with, so today we are going to create first, we are going to talk about this add custom attribute in the data model, which is part of the enhancement of the standard data model. Okay, so that means, and in fact in the real-time project we will have this kind of thing to deal with. That is, we have the standard data model, whether it's BP or MM or finance data model, and that data model we need to extend with our custom attribute, custom entity types to meet certain requirement. So let's move on to the example of add custom attribute in the data model. So the first thing which we will do, that is the transaction MDG IMG. So this transaction in the last session also we used this, and as I mentioned that in MDG framework this is the most important transaction, because all kind of MDG activities, the framework building, configurations, everything we will do in this transaction. So we'll go to this transaction, and here you have general settings, and under the general settings you have the data modeling. Along with data modeling you have other things like UI, search and duplicate check, process model, replication, value mapping, key mapping, and data transfer. So we'll come one by one whenever we have those discussions. So let's move to the data modeling. So and then go to edit data model. So in edit data model we will have we will have
We can't hear you, Aditya.
Okay, I was disconnected in between. I'm trying to connect the remote desktop. Okay. Okay. So we are in MDG IMG transaction. So this transaction we will come uh, multiple times for MDG configurations, framework building. And right now, so if I quickly, just for recap, so if I go to MDG IMG, and here you have the data model and edit data model. So continue, it says currently edited. Okay, let me release the lock. Okay, so here we have all the data models. So this is the data model which we created last time. So airline application, right? And now, so today we have a topic to talk about: add custom attribute in the data model. So first we will start with material, then I will come to the business partner. Okay. The process is more or less same. Uh, Obviously the relative table, the relative structures, those names will be different based on different master data. Whether if it is a material, then the material tables and the structures will come into the picture. If it is a vendor or supplier or business partner, then accordingly their relative tables and structure will come into the picture. So let's start with material. So let's go to the entity type. So last session we were also talking about the standard data model, where we talked about the data model and the major entity types of data model. So I'm not repeating that. So straight away what I will do, I will go to the entity type, which is a leading entity type for material master. That is nothing but material, which is a leading entity type. You can see this is a type 1, and under this entity type I'm going to add some attribute, or let's say one particular attribute. So already I can see one custom attribute is added here. So I will go ahead and add attribute. So let's say ZZ field 01. Whether it is a key field, not really, because key fields will be like a industry sector or material type, material number. These are all the key fields, but this is not the key field. So I'm not going to make it as a key field. Otherwise, we can put it as a checkbox, check flag for the key field. Data element, I can give the data element, let's say character 10. Whether it is a required field, so if it is a required field, we can also make it as a check flag on. Whether this field having any relation with currency or unit of measure, that also we can define. If there is any search help, however, the search help is something either we can define here, or the search help activity we can do when we are going to deal with UI. So we preferably we go for UI level search help configuration rather than data model level search help configuration. But yes, this is also one option. No existence check. This is nothing but a kind of a standard validation check. So obviously we are going to define all sort of a validation which is needed. So we are not going to make any flag check here. And the description. So this is like a custom field 01. Similarly, if we have any associated table or structure with this or any associated fields, these are all. So we will definitely talk about those associated structure fields, but let's focus on one by one. Let's start with a simple example, then we will go all those things. So I just add the custom attribute in the standard data model. Now you can ask me one question, that how many custom attribute we need to add. So now this question is purely depends on your requirement. What are the requirements you have? And in order to meet your requirement, if you need 5 fields, or if you need 10 fields, or if you need 20 fields, custom fields I mean, that you need to add. So it is all depends on your requirement. So now you just add the attribute, and now come out from this, completely come out, again get into the data model, and by this time you can see the active version is different. Earlier it was activated, like the active version was same. Now it is different. That means that it has been extended and saved but not activated. So what we need to do, we need to just click on activate, and that will activate my data model. Okay, so it will take little time, because as I was telling that it is purely depends on how many attributes or how many entity types you have in the data model, and based on that, if it is a small data model like having less number of attributes or entity types, then definitely it will take less amount of time. And if it is a big data model having a good number of entity types, attributes, so it will take little time, because the moment you activate the data model, what happens, it's not only the activation of data model, also the newly added attribute or entity type will be added in the backend structure as well. So now you can see that post activation this, we also know that we need to do some following step in order to adjust uh, the backend table, which is the staging area. So for that we need to go to the program USMD adjust staging, which is to update the master data changes after activation of the data model. And here you need to give the data model name and execute. So this will basically synchronize your data model information as well as your backend staging table information. Okay, this is done. Another way to deal with this is the symbol, which also performs this adjust staging table activity. So that also you can use. So whatever you want, and then go back and see in the backend table whether that particular data model is available. Sorry, the particular custom field is available in the data model. So USMD data model, and here we need to give the data model name and execute, and so we have a check table and we have a text table. Text table will contain the description and check table will contain the value. So if I go there and if I just search, here we go. So that you can see that the custom field which we have added, that is now available in the backend table as well. which is also called as a staging table or physical table for this data model. Okay, so this is one continuous activity. Uh, Now the question is that when we are going to add a custom attribute in the data model, the next question which will come, this field has been added in the data model, but whether this field is really necessary in the database table, whether this field value is really need to be available in the respective database table, whether it is for, as we are talking about material, so whether it can be the MARA table for material master general data, or MARC table for plant data, or some other table like MVKE or MARD, etc. Whether that is also needed, or it is only required in the data model only, not the respective database table. So as we know, there is a concept called reuse mode and flex mode. The reuse mode means you add the field in the data model, and also you need to get the particular field value in the respective database table. Then you will go for the reuse mode. But for flex mode, you only need that particular field in the data model, but you don't need that in the database table, because that field will just use as a catalytic agent for manipulating some certain another field value. So that field is not really necessary for any database table to go. So let's try with the reuse mode configuration first, then we'll come to the flex mode. So in reuse mode, there are several steps we have. So the first step is that add the custom field in the data model, which already done. Then next is adjust the staging area, that is also done. Now the step 2 is add the custom field with MARA table. So it can be MARA table or MARC table or MARD table or MVKE table. That is all depends on ultimately in which table the data is going. Okay, so let's continue with the MARA table at least. So I will go to ABAP dictionary. In ABAP dictionary, uh, database table MARA, then go to append index, and I can create so this is the append structure name which I'm giving. So custom field. So I need the field name, and the field name is this one, and this is character 10. Character 10. Obviously, we need to store everything into the package, the project package, which generally created by either basis team or the GRC team. So we will put all our objects into the same package, but here we are just saving them in the local object. Okay, so and then go and activate it. So we will activate the append structure, and as soon as the append structure will get activated, the field will be available uh, in the database table, which is here for the MARA table. It will take some time because It is just not adding the field in the database table. Also, it is enhancing the backend structures for Mara. Similarly, if you go to the MARC for an example, and if you add the custom field in MARC, so as the same during the activation, it will also activate the respective database table as well as the backend MARC structure. So the process is more or less same for all uh, the database table appending any kind of a custom field. So do you want to display the log? I can show. So this is the display. Everything has been activated successfully. And now here you can look at this field, and this is active, and this is the Mara table. So this is done. That is add the custom field with Mara table. Next step is include custom field in table T130F. Now what is this T130F and why this is necessary? Now let me show you. So this is T130F table. So this is basically the field attributes. Now go to table contained, create entries, and there are two views. So I will go with V underscore 130F. Now what happened when you add the field in this? So basically what happened that whatever the custom field we are adding or whatever the standard field we have, they are part of some field groups. Okay. And if we will not add them in the field groups, what is going to happen? The data will not be visible on SAP GUI. So that's the problem. So we have to add them. So in order to add them, there is a certain procedure which we need to follow. That is, what is that procedure? Now you can see whenever I will go and add them, first I need to give the table name, which is in my case, it's a Mara table, followed by one single dash without any gap and the field name, and save it. This is customizing request. So it is a part of data model. So this is the customizing TR. Now this field should be part of some selection group. So let's say I can take some selection group number 140. You can take some different number, it's up to you. And you can see already in this selection group, there is already one standard field which is present. That is fine. And we will have also this new field which is associated here in the field selection group. Now save it and go back and just activate. I don't need to see the log. Just to cross check whether it has been added or not. So here we have. Okay. Then generate data model specific structure. Then again come back to, so this part is done already. You can see the data model is activated and the active version is same. Go back and then straight away we will go to the generate data model specific structure. Now what about these items? I will talk about this item, but uh, for any kind of reuse mode configuration, whatever the sequential steps are needed, that I'm just explaining, and then I will come to this step, because this is more or less like just a cross check kind of a step. Nothing to add here. Okay. Now data model. Now here if you see the left hand side, when you select the data model, you have two things. One is structure, another one is the mapping. What is structure? Structure means this is basically, so under which entity type I have added this custom field, that is material entity type. So I will first open the material entity type. Now if you see very closely, these are all different activities. So first of all, PDF based form. How, by the way, PDF based form is a kind of an old approach. Nowadays what happens, from MDG 6.1 version, the floor plan manager has been associated with the MDG framework by default. And down the line we have Fiori and UI5. But earlier, before MDG 6.1 version, there was something called Smart Forms, Adobe Forms, which was associated with MDG. So from MDG 6.1, when we have floor plan manager, which is much advanced topic, or which is much user friendly, simple way to define your UI than the Smart Forms and Adobe Forms. So definitely, being a MDG developer, we will always follow the FPM. In fact, in your project, they will also look for FPM only, rather than Adobe Forms and Smart Forms. So PDF based form is nowadays no more exist, I can say. But if you see the other things, they are quite relevant. What are the relevance of this mapping of reuse active area? So this is a kind of a structure which will help for all attribute which is part of this material entity type to be part of the 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 end-to-end mapping from data model to the database table. The end-to-end mapping for this particular uh, entity type, and under this entity type whatever the attribute we have. Similarly, search application. So let's say the custom field which we have added, if it is not part of this search application, then down the line when we will search this field value, we will not able to get it. So that's what we need to incorporate that particular custom field which we have added also in the search application. Next is the field control for attribute. Field control for attribute is basically for field validations and derivations. Okay, so down the line, if this custom field we want certain validations and derivations to build respect to this particular custom field, then definitely we will be required this field control for attribute structure. Then we will require this field properties for attribute. This is for the UI field properties. So if your field is not part of this structure, in UI building, you will not get that particular field. Okay. So that's what these structures are. Similarly, key field. Basically, this is for key mapping and value mapping. Okay. So these are all fields. These are all structures basically, which will be required to incorporate that particular custom field. So what we will do, we will highlight them and click on generate selected structure. The moment we click on generate selected structure, that custom field will incorporate to these structures. Okay, so let it be first. Okay, it is asking the package. However, I am just giving the temporary package, which is a local package. And here we have all the structures is appended with the custom field. Now if I check now, and so this is a structure and this one. So structure for PP mapping. Okay, and now if I so here you can see this particular field is now part of the structure. Similarly, if you see the another one, which is the UI field property, here also you can search and you can see that. Okay, so this is the step which is generate data model specific structure. Now one more thing, this is related to the structure. Now coming to the mapping. Mapping means we have basically two types of mapping. One is basically I think another day I was talking about this. Yeah. So here, let's say for this example, so requester, verifier, approver, these are all different levels we have. So requester, let's say, create or update the master data with MDG change request, and the data will go to the staging table. Still it is inactive record, and the change request will go to the next level approval, that is verifier. Similarly, it will go to the another level, or rather the extreme level of approval. And finally, when all the approval done, then the data will move from staging to the active area. This is the concept which we talked about last session. But here today I just want to add one more thing. That is, functionally that's true that we will move the data from staging to the active area. But technically if I say there will be one middle layer, and that layer we call it as a PP, which is nothing but persistent phase. Okay. So this PP is basically a kind of a middle layer, and when the data moves from staging to the active during the activation stage, so basically first the data will go from staging to PP and from PP to the active area. So this is the technical journey it has. Okay, but functionally if I want to explain, I will definitely talk about PP. Okay, I will simply say staging to active. Okay, but technically if I break it, so the sequence will be like staging to PP and PP to active. And this PP is nothing but your PP structure, which just now we have seen. This one, this structure. So this structure is actually helping that. Now coming to that, so mapping, again material entity type. Why I am using material again and again? Because my custom field has been added into this entity type. If I add my custom field to some other entity type, then definitely I will use that entity type as a mapping name, or that entity type to generate the structures for the custom field. So that's the reason we are using this material entity type here. Now you can see this Based on this material entity type, we have also some SMT mapping concept. Okay, so what is that SMT mapping? We'll come to that. Okay, so we have now step number 5, we have SMT mapping, but before that we need to do one more step. So we have basically complete the step number 3, which is nothing but include the custom field in the table T130F and generate data model specific structure. So basically we just need to do this structure activity, not the mapping activity at this moment. Okay, I will come to that mapping part, just the structure part. Okay, then next is the structure extension. So apart from this generate structures, so this 1 2 3 4 5, apart from these 5 structures, we have some more structure which needs to be addressed. And how that will address and what are the structures? So basically these are all structures. So the structure name starts with MDG BS MAT S followed by table name. So let's say if my target table is Mara table, so I will say this is Mara. Or if my target table is MARC table, then it will be MARC. Or my target table is MVKE, then it will be like this. So it will be the table name. Okay. So now in this case we have, so again we will go back to SE11, which is data dictionary. So MDG underscore, so here we have MDG underscore BS underscore MAT underscore Mara, because my target table is Mara, because I have added my custom field under Mara table. Continue and let's check, and I can see this field is already added here. How come? I didn't come to this structure before, then how come it added here? As I mentioned, the moment we activate the Mara table, it is not just the activation of Mara table. Also, it appended the backend table structures as well. So this is the backend table structure for Mara. So the moment we activate the Mara table, this structure also appended with this field. Okay. So we need not to do anything here. That's fine. The next is MDG BS MAT S, again table name, followed by underscore UI. So this is for the UI field properties. And similarly, we have MDG BS MAT S table name followed by underscore X. This is basically for SMT mapping. Okay. Now what is SMT mapping? I just mentioned that the data moves from staging to PP and PP to active. When I am saying to you that this is the traveling structure which we have, but how my system will come to know? There should be some procedure, there should be some way to guide my system that you need to travel this way, like from staging to PP and PP to active. Then only it will understand how it will travel, right? So because of that reason, that uh, this travel way we need to define to the system, and this travel way we call it as a mapping details, or rather than we call SMT mapping. So one mapping from staging table to PP, another mapping from PP to the active area. This is how we design. Okay. So that's what in SMT mapping, it is necessary to have this structure appended with that custom field. Okay. Standard field will be there. We need not to bother about the standard field. All we need to bother that is the custom field which we have added. So then move to this UI, and you can see this is the common component name and standard component name. So we will always use this component name. So this is the standard component. Doesn't matter, even though your component actual data element is character 20, 10, 15, whatever it is, for UI you have to use this component. Save it and activate. Similarly, for text structure, this is the component. We'll create one fresh. Save it and activate it. Okay. So now this is done. Now as I was telling that what is the difference between adding the field in material and adding the field in business partner or vendor or customer? The process will remain same. Only the table name will be different, the structure name will be different, and the SMT mapping name will be different. So that is the difference you have. Apart from that, the following steps will be remain same. Okay. Then moving towards the SMT mapping step. In the SMT mapping step, so the first is from staging to PP and PP to the active area. Okay. Now this is the standard mapping step, rather I can say, or rather you can say that how come you get this name? There will be some source. Okay. You cannot remember this name. Yes, there is a source, and the source is here. I will go to mapping, and this is the material, and this one is the SMT mapping from active area, and then this is the one from SMT mapping to the active area. Okay. So this is the source and destination for me. Okay. So first we will go to this mapping. In order to do that, we will just come out from this generate data model specific structure, and we'll go to create and edit mapping. So create and edit mapping, and click on open, and here MDG underscore BS map to PP. Okay, so this is the mapping name. So this is the map model from staging area to PP. So now there are a lot of mapping steps I can see. So which one we will take? Now if you observe closely, the last word of this mapping step is actually nothing but the entity type name, whether it is a Mara sales, Mara purchase, or MARC basics, So this is actually defining the entity types. So what is the entity type for me? That is material. So in my case, I will go or I will look for the SMT mapping step name which end with material. This one. This is the material. Okay. Now go to details, transformation, field mapping. So we are basically doing the field mapping. And you can see already the standard fields are present. So all I need to do, I need to click on edit, then add. First, I will use the source structure. What is the source structure? If I show you, what is the structure? The structure which we generated just few minutes. Give the structure name. So this is the PP structure. So this is the same structure which we generated just few minutes back under the step number 3, generate data model specific structure. Okay, so this structure is basically the source structure here. Okay, why source structure? Because what is my target? My target is the respective Mara table. And what is my source? Data model. And what is the relative PP structure? This is the structure. So that's what we will use here as a source structure, the PP structure. Okay. Now, if I click, I must have that custom field, this one, right? This is the field. And also the same field will be available for me here as well, right? And how come this field is available? Because I have added this field in the SMT mapping structure. That's why this field is available. Also, because this field is also part of this generated structure, that's what it is coming here. Okay. So this is my request. Okay. Once this is done, go to the another mapping, which is this one, MDG BS map to STA. MDG BS map. Okay. Now here, what is my target table? That is Mara table. That is my target table. So I will select this one, and even you can see the source structure is also the structure which we here appended. And this is as usual our generated structure. So go to the details, transformation, field mapping, edit, add. So here, what is the source structure? If I see, the source structure is basically the Mara backend structure, this one, where my field is already associated. So what I will do, I will just enter this structure, go to F4. Here is my field. Similarly, I need to check my field here as well. And save it. Okay. So that basically complete this, the entire traveling way from staging to PP and PP to the active area. And finally, we can activate the data model. So we can close this. We can go back to edit data model and activate it. Because though we have activated the data model after adding the custom field, but after that we have done several configuration steps. So make sure my data model is also synced with that, and then also I can adjust the staging area. Okay, so that is done. So this is the procedure which we need to follow for reuse mode. So whenever we will add the custom attribute in the data model, and as I was telling, if you will ask your customer, okay, this is the custom field, but whether it will be reuse mode or flex mode, your customer will not able to provide that information. Even they will never aware this kind of terms, reuse mode or flex mode. This is a purely MDG terms, right? So what you need to ask them, that whether this particular field will be part of data model and also part of database table, whether you want to see the field values in the respective database table. If yes, then obviously you need to go for the reuse mode. Otherwise, you will go for the flex mode. Now in flex mode, what is happening? If I see the step 1, add the custom field in the data model, then adjust the staging area, which is nothing but the following steps always. Next is the generate data model specific structure, then structure extension with only UI, because I don't need SMT mapping. Why I don't need SMT mapping? SMT mapping is only required when you are worried about to move your data to the active area. Your active area is nothing but your database table, let's say. Okay. But when you are ultimately not sending the data to the active area, so there is no point to do the SMT mapping activity for this. So you just need to add them in the data model, then follow the data model specific structure. Why this structure is need to be generated? Because this structure will have search, data validation, then UI field property. So that's what it is required to extend them, and then just extend the UI, which you have here as well. But apart from that, no other activity steps will be required. Obviously, you can activate the data model after completing this. Okay, so this is the difference between the reuse mode and flex mode for material masters. All I am discussing at this moment related to the material masters. Okay, I will come to the business partner next. But right now what I am doing, everything is related to the material masters. Okay, so this is one activity. Now second activity is add the custom entity type in the data model. Now they will say that I need a certain set of entry which will be required as an entity type. Now again, that is up to you, which needs to identify which one you will go for attribute and which one you go for entity type. Let's say for an example, let's say I'm giving one small example. I have a material number, material type, industry sector, unit of measure, material group. This is a material basic information. Along with that, let's say I have one field called business unit, and under the business unit is basically one entity type. This is one entity type. Under the business unit, I'm using another field called agent name, which is attribute. Okay, and I'm taking also one more field, which is let's say indicator. Indicator is another entity type. It is entity type along with works as an attribute. So both, also entity type and as well as behave as an attribute. Now the condition is here that this indicator field will be a kind of a field. Based on this particular field, the entity type, business unit, and the agent name will vary. So let's say for an example, let's say my material number, material type, industry sector, unit of measure, and material group. If my indicator is, let's say, A, then the business unit is, let's say, A1, and the agent name is, let's say, Mr. X. For the same material, when I am saying the indicator is B, the business unit will be, let's say, B1, and the agent will change, and the agent will be, let's say, Mr. Y. So that means based on this indicator field, which is also as an attribute type, entity type as well, based on this particular field, this business unit and agent name also change. So if such kind of requirement comes in front of us, then how we will treat them? Okay, so let's see. So now in this case, I will create one custom entity type. Is there any custom entity type? Yes, I can see some custom entity types are there. Not a problem. So I will create. So the first thing which I need to do, that is the business unit I need to create. Okay. And this is type 4. Data element nothing, because this will be a purely entity type. So this will be business unit. Now it is saying, as you are creating this business unit entity type, it must have the leading relationship and the qualifying relationship. Now in the before example, when I was talking about adding some custom attribute, there we did not bother about the relationship, because as we know that the relationship always comes with the entity type, not with the attribute. So for me that time the relationship was uh, not a part of configuration, but this time it will be a part of configuration. Okay, so that's fine. So continue to the attribute. Now here under the business unit I need the attribute called agent name. Okay, and here let's say character 50. Okay, same message. Now what next? I need to create another entity type which is indicator. And this one I will choose type 3, because this entity type will behave as an entity type as well as an attribute, and moreover let's say I want this entity type value should come from the domain level. That is also one factor, let's say. However, I'm just taking this as a character 2. So this is basically the material indicator. Okay. Now go to the relationship. So the first relationship, I want a leading relationship. So what is my leading entity type here? Which is nothing but the material. And the type 4, the one which I created. So that is Z business unit. Okay. Relationship name. And this is the leading relation. Why? Because this is the leading entity type. And this is type 1 and this is type 4. So all we know from our previous formula, that is type 4 depends on type 1. Okay, so this is the one, and the cardinality is, let's say, 1:n. So for a one material, that there can be n number of business unit, right? So this is same material. For same material there can be more than one business unit. I don't need any data model. So this is material basic business unit relation. So that is one. Save. So the leading relationship error was gone. Now qualifying. So qualifying, the one which we create as a type 3, which is here the Z indicator, and this type 4. Okay. So this one will be qualifying. Why qualifying? Because based on the indicator value, the business unit value is keep changing, and also it is changing with the agent name. So that's what the relationship type will be qualifying relation. Again, this is 1:n relation, or I can also maintain 1:1. It's fine. So here, now save this. So all the error is gone. Now continue again. Now I can see the active version different because some changes happen, and then I'm going to activate it. Okay. So this is the first step. Here, when we are doing this, uh, adding the custom entity type in the data model. Also, we have seen in this example the leading and the qualifying. Now, before I move to the following steps, I will quickly talk about the foreign key relation. So the foreign key relation is something like, uh, if I give an example quickly, let's say I have two tables. This is obviously table 1, and this is table 2. And here I have, let's say, employee employee ID, spot, and name, spot. And here, spot, in position, and spot detail. Okay. Now here, let's say employee ID 1. Name is Mr. X. Spot is running. Two, so Y also running. Okay. Now, winning position is, let's say, first and second, and spot detail 200 meter, 200 meter. Instead of spot, I will say employee ID, or let's say name. Okay. So now in table 1, I have,
Aditya, your screen is frozen.
is it?
Yeah, it just shows table 1 and employee 1 and 2, nothing on table 2.
Okay. Wait a minute. Okay, I connect now. Okay. Oh, I think you can see my screen. So basically in table 1, we have so let's say in table 1 we have employee ID, name and spot, where we have 3 employees, Mr. Y, Mr. X, Y and Z, and the spot is run. Where in table 2 we have a field name, winning position and the spot details, where the winning position Y is Mr. Y is the number 1 position, Mr. X is the second position, Mr. Z is third position. Okay, and the spot details is they are like 200 meter. Okay, so these two table, they connected with this key field which is name, and that defines the complete structure of this particular conditions. So this is the employee, the table 1, the employee details, and table 2, the spot details, and we have the key fields here. And the key field which is present in the table 2 as a foreign key, that defines the rest of the details for the respective employee. So this is how we built the foreign key relationship in our framework. However, if I don't want to use the foreign key relation, whether that is fine, or every time we have to use, or any specific condition. Now there are certain conditions where probably you need to look for the foreign key condition. But honestly speaking, whatever the requirement we used to face, if I use referencing, leading and qualifying, I can say 95% of my requirement will be done. Hardly there will be 5% or more than 5% requirement where in those cases you will be required the foreign key. In fact, let me tell you that the foreign key relation has been introduced just couple of years back. Before that, there was no foreign key relationship concept. There was only 3 relationships, which was referencing, leading and qualifying. Okay, so in a large segment of the project, mostly your requirement will be covered with referencing, leading and qualifying. Okay, but this is at least I'm giving you a kind of a frame that how this foreign key relationship will work between these two type of table conditions. So let's say you want to basically join the table details where you have some data in database table 1 and some data in the database table 2, and how you merge them. So that case you can use that. Okay. Now let's continue. We just added the entity type here. These two, business unit and indicator. Okay. And also we added the relationship as well. Now what is the next action which we need to do? The next action is we need to go to the generate data model specific structure. And in the generate data model specific structure, we need to create the entries for type 4, which is here the business unit. So here business unit. Now what are those details we can create? First is the mapping for reuse active area. Okay. Reuse active area. Secondly, search application. An entry with this key mark for deletion. Next is search application, then field control, and finally field properties. So this 4 is okay, quite enough. So one I have taken for SMT mapping, for mapping of reused active area. Second one is for search application. Third one is for data validation. And fourth one is for UI field properties. Save it. Save in, I'm saving in temporary package, but you need to save in the appropriate project package. Now generate them. So what is going to happen, that inside this entity type business unit, whatever the field we have, that will be generated. Okay, just a moment, I got the dump. Let's see. Okay, just check whether it has been appended or not. Entity does not exist in the activated data model. Wait a minute. Disactivate now. Let's adjust the staging. Okay, let's go back. Check now. This is the one, business unit. So we have business unit along with the agent name, the indicator, and the material number. Okay. Now let's see. The entity type has been probably removed from the active data model. Delete the entry of entity type. Because I removed once from this structure, probably that creates some problem. Let me log out completely. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me remove all the entries here. Let's create one similar entity type as a type 4. Give more or less same kind of a name. Okay. Yeah. Go to relationship. Has a leading relationship with indicate.
I think Aditya, the second one was supposed to be qualifying, right?
Sorry. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Now I'm going to adjust the staging. Okay. So here we have business unit and agent. Okay. Now let's go to the generate data model specific structure. Create entries. Business unit 1. Let's save this first. Delivered structure in namespace / MDG are not generated / MDG. Okay, now it is activated. Okay, now let's move to the rest of the details. Search anyhow not necessary at this moment. I will only go those items which is at this moment necessary for me. Okay, so now save this. Could not be created. Okay, done. Now let's check. Okay, so the agent indicate material. So this is the three major attributes which we have, and similarly the other two, particularly this one is important. Okay, so it has been now updated. So what was the mistake? So the mistake was the earlier entity type for business unit which I created. I made the entry here and I removed it, but somehow system was not able to understand that it has been removed and it should be synchronized. So that is a standard glitch, rather I say. So because it is a IDS server, so it may not have a proper OSS node available to, because it's a standard error. It is not something which really associate with some custom. Though we are dealing with the custom entity type, but it's a standard synchronization, I mean to say. Anyway, so this is complete. Now what next? The next part is, once this is done, we need to go and create the mapping. Okay. Now,
Aditya, you won't generate the structures for the indicator entity type?
no, not necessary. I just need for the type 4. I don't need for the type 3. Okay, because in the previous example, what you see, I did for material master, some material, which is a leading entity type. We will not go for any type 3 because type 3 itself is an attribute. So that's what you can see. The structure already having the indicator. So I don't need to generate them separately. So it will become automatically. Okay. Because how come? Because it is the indicator is in a relationship with business unit. That's what. So it is having all the attributes, not entity types. Indicator is acting as an entity type, also as an attribute. And agent is nothing but attribute, part of business unit entity type, and also material is the key field. Okay.
So when you have a type 4, Aditya, you always need a type 3, is it?
I need a type C. Right. Good point. So now I need to create. Now whether I can use the standard mapping but I will show you how to use the custom mapping rather than using the standard mapping. Okay. Obviously, you can include those fields in the standard mapping, but here I will show you the custom mapping. So let's say, okay, so this is the mapping name. Now, now first thing is, uh, I need to decide in which table this data is going. So let's say this data is going to the MARA table, for an example, or MARC table, whatever. Mostly in real-time project, 80% time you need to add your field in a MARA table, 20 to 25% MARC table. There are some project, yes, you also need to deal with MVKE or MARD, but very less. Mainly MARA and MARC as far as material is concerned. Okay, so field 0. Okay. So here only I can continue to add rather than creating any other append structure. So what are those fields I need to add? I need to add both of them, the one which I created. So first one was this agent, which is character 25. And another one was indicator. This is character 2. Okay, so this is active now. as the Mara table is the okay, so the agent and indicator. So both are added now. Now, so here, as the Mara table is activated now, definitely the backend structure for Mara that also will be appended with these fields. So here you can see agent and indicator. Okay, fine. Now I will go to X. This is for SMT mapping. Now here, whether here that field is there, no, it's not there. So what I will do, I will add here as well. Okay, so this is done. Now let's go back. Close this. Now this is also bug. It only works one time. Okay. Not open. I need to create. Add mapping step. Map Mara. Description is map to Mara. Now source structure. Source structure is our okay, this one check. Right. So the source structure is here. This PP structure, which is having agent and indicator. So this is the source structure. Okay. Now target structure. Target structure is the Mara structure. The Mara structure. Okay. And the change structure. Okay. And the change structure will be the X structure. Okay. So this is source structure, In the previous example, when we add the attribute, there also we have seen that always it will be the PP structure. Target where ultimately my data is going, that table structure, and change structure is nothing but the X structure. You just need to remember this one. Okay. Sometimes this one we get confused. What will be the change structure? So it will be always the X structure, which is for SMT mapping. Now go to change structure key and create. So the first thing we need to create, that is material number, which is the key field here. Material number. Okay. And then apart from that, we also need to add the agent. Okay. And the routing type. Sorry, not routing. The indicator. Indicators. Okay. So these are all change structure fields. Go to the transformation, add field mapping, add. Now the source structure here again, this is the source structure. Field here. Agent. Secondly, indicator. And the material number. Okay. Material. Save here. So this part is done. Next. Z. So this is 2PP, another one is the 2STA. Here, mapping step, just quickly check. Okay. Now here also map Mara. This is also map to Mara. If you are using MARC, then map MARC, map to MARC. The source structure will be this will be your target structure, and this will be your source structure. Okay. Save. Select. Go to the details. Transformation. Field mapping. Now here the source structure will be this one. Now next. Okay. Save it. Done. This one as well. Now this mapping name, we need to go to again the generate data model specific structure, material. Now here the business unit we need to call, and mapping of reuse active area. Now here we have to give 2STA and 2PP. This is the one. Okay, 2STA and 2PP. Fine. So this is the place where we are defining the mapping name respect to the entity type, and that complete your data model activities. So basically, if someone will say that I need to add the custom entity type in the data model, these are all activity you need to do. So first thing, if I just recap, I need to create the entity types, the custom entity types, maintain the relationship, come to the generate data model, the data model specific structure, define the structures. Once the structure is defined, go to the SMT mapping, but before going to the SMT mapping, need to add the fields in the respective database table, maintain the necessary structures, then come to the SMT mapping, finish the SMT mapping for 2PP and 2STA, then finally go to again the generate structure, select the data model, go to the mapping and define the 2PP and 2STA structure respect to the entity types. So this is the whole details you need to do. And finally, again you need to activate the data model and adjust the data model. Clear? So far, whatever we discussed related to the add custom attribute in the data model and add custom entity types in the data model for material master, any question related to that?
Aditya, like on the mappings, can you go to that configuration, please? In the generate activate structure. Not this one, the other one where you specify the mapping, right?
Okay. This one.
Yeah. So Aditya, like the way I understood was you're doing this SMT mapping to map from staging area to this persistent phase and from persistent phase to active area, right? Those are the two columns over here.
Right.
So what is confusing was it says SMT mapping from active area. It should be like SMT.
Don't go by the don't go by the description, because if you go by the description that will create confusion. Just go by what we are doing here. So first thing is 2pp. If I open the 2pp, what is my source structure? My source structure is the pp structure. And what is my target structure? That is nothing but my what it called the database table structure. So that is one way. Okay. In the another way, if I see
Aditya, like over here, like 2pp means it should be from the staging to the persistent phase, right? So the source should be
kind of
the staging and the target should be the pp
no,
structure, right?
actually the thing is the staging structure we cannot take because that is the physical structure. That is basically fill the data in a runtime basis. So that's what, just for understanding purpose we are saying staging to pp, but ultimately we have to take the pp structure, because if I say that I can probably use this structure, I can probably use this table. Basically, this is not a structure. First thing, this is a table, and moreover, this is a physical table. It's a runtime table. So this table is basically dynamic. It's not a static table. Okay. So that's what. Instead of that, we will use this PP. So whatever you say, just for the understanding purpose, we always use this communication that it's staging to PP and PP to active. But if you remember in such a way that okay, it's like a PP to active and it's a kind of a another channel from active to PP or something like that. But ultimately just remember your source is here PP and the target is here the database, the final database table structure. Another way around, if you see where the source structure is your database table structure and the target structure is your PP. Okay, but ultimately which way the data is going, ultimately whether the data is moving from database table to data model, no, that is not the way. Your way is one way, that is always the data will flow from your data model, or rather we say after activation from of your change request, the data will flow to the database table, not the reverse way around. Okay, so whatever way is possible for you to easy to remember, but this is the uh, basically the traveling. So first PP to the database structure and database structure to the PP. That is how it works. Okay. Is that clear?
And Aditya, another question, like over there, when you did the field mapping, in one place the material number like ultimately is a Matner, right, in Mara table, but where it changed to material, like MATERAL, like why the field name
Right.
changed? It was not MATNR.
So here, if you see, when we see the field here, this is the source field, which is part of your uh, this backend database table structure, which is Matner, Z agent, and Z indicator. Right now, this field which you see here, this is the material field, which is part of your PP structure. Right. So ultimately, your relation is always between these two, between PP and let's say Mara backend table. Okay. So in the PP, whatever you define, in PP you have material, Z indicator and agent, which came here, and the source field is nothing but what you have defined in this structure, which is Matner, and obviously followed by Z agent and indicator. Clear this one?
Yes.
Any other question? Okay. Now let's move to okay. Now I'm leaving the decision to you. Tomorrow I will be available. So do you want to continue tomorrow with the business partner, or today on you want to continue? I think better tomorrow we can continue, right? Because the same thing I will repeat for business partner, the custom attribute and the entity type. Basically these two things we will cover up in these two different topic, which is customer vendor integration and GNL model. Okay, so better we can assemble around 6 p.m. tomorrow evening India time, and then we can continue with these two topic. Okay. So that will basically, so if I see today we cover this for material master, tomorrow also we will see for business partner, but while we are doing this, tomorrow also we are covering the CVI concept and Genil model. Okay, and also finance one I will also talk about. The same thing, the adding custom field and entity type. The process is same, only I repeat, only the backend tables are different. Obviously the SMT mapping names will be different and the respective database table will be different. These three items will be different, but the procedure will remain same. Okay, is that okay?
Aditya, one other question, like when will we use the referencing relationship?
Referencing relationship, as I mentioned in the last session while doing this example, custom data model, like what we are doing, if I just recall this this example, let me open the data model. Okay, so in this data model, basically we have two entity type. One is the carrier ID, another one is the currency, and they are in a direct relations. So currency and carrier ID, they are in a direct relation. So if I remember, I was giving some example the very good example is like in every company we have something called refer buddy, right? So if I refer someone like Mr. X or Mr. Y, so the relation between me and Mr. X or Mr. Y will be the referencing relation. Similarly here, the relation between the currency and carrier ID is nothing but the referencing relation. So they refer directly to each other. One pen is having price of 10 rupees. So what is the relation between this pen as an object and the price? That is a direct relation, which is a reference relation. Okay, so that's what a reference relation is. When we have a direct relation with that time we will use such kind of thing. And here the one important thing is, if you see the entity, the storage type wise, this is leading, which is type 1, and this is type 3. You can also say that when I have some relation with type 1 and type 3, that time probably I can go for referencing. But this is not the correct way to say, because there will be some situation where even though you are doing type 1 and type 3 relation, but that will go for a leading relation. There might be some cases, though you are doing the relations with type 1 and type 3, that could be the qualifying relations, because ultimately it is all depends on your requirement. That is what I just explained with some requirement, right? So it is very difficult. You cannot say that if my type 1 and type 3 goes in a relation, that will be referencing. No, it could be referencing, it could be qualifying, it could be leading. That is all depends on your requirement, what will be the characteristics of the field, how the field will behave in the framework. Everything will depend on that. Based on that, the relationship will be defined. Okay, but referencing is something which is a direct pointing relations. So here in this case, it's a direct pointing relation. If I search based on the currency, I will get the list of carrier IDs, which will be in a direct referencing relations. Okay, so that is something which we call referencing relation.
So Aditya, like will we see like what is the implication? Like when you say that between type 1 and type 3 you can use either of the all the three, right? The leading, referencing, or qualifying. Will we see in the subsequent classes or something what is the implication of using one versus the other?
No, that is what I discussed in last session and today as well. That this is how we have to define type 1, type 2, type 3 and type 4. So one example, that is what you see in the referencing. The another example which I have given, that is for leading and qualifying in this example, that is indicator, business unit and agent name, where for the same material, if the indicator value change, the business unit value also change, and based on that the agent name as well, which is changed. So if this kind of requirement I have, how I will define it, whether I will just use as a attribute and put it all into the material entity type, whether that will solve the problem? No. Then I have to categorize them based on the requirement to the different entity type. So that's what business unit I have taken one entity type, indicator I have taken another entity type. Under the business unit I have taken agent name because they are closely associated, which is as an attribute I have taken, and then I define the whole relations, right? So this is how we define the type 1, type 2, type 3 and type 4 and their relations.